Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another week of Good Guy Sports, joined by myself, Blake Gerke, Brother Jackson, and of course, Mike Roby, back for another week to break down slash preview where we are in both the Stanley Cup Finals and the NBA Finals starting tomorrow as we record this, or starting tonight, excuse me, as we record this on Thursday, June 5th, as well as the first game of the Stanley Cup Finals happening last night, which we will recap here in a second. Also joined by Blake Limberger. Good to have him back on the show. But I want to start with the happenings last night in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, as we saw a heck of a start to what I think is going to be a great series, similar to last year between these exact two same teams, being the Edmonton Oilers out of the Western Conference champions taking on the Eastern Conference champion Florida Panthers in a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup Finals, and we saw Edmonton win an absolute classic. Maybe is too much of a stretch to call it, but I mean it was a heck of a game, wasn't it? 3-3 going into overtime, and then ultimately it was Draisaitl from Edmonton getting the winner in overtime, who's just having a great postseason as well. I think he's really underrated part of that Edmonton attack, really. But 4-3 result for Edmonton in overtime last night. Didn't look great as they were down for quite a long period, it seemed like, in that game. And it seemed like the Panthers were going to wear them down. But the Edmonton home crowd is obviously really into it and willing their team to cross the finish line. So a great start to what I think will be a great series. And Jack, I think if that game is any indication on how this series will go, we're going to have a long competitive series from the looks of it.
That's right, Blake. And if you think about it, and if you go back to the last previous times these teams met last year in the Stanley Cup Final, where Florida, the Panthers, that is, they were up three two they were up two nothing last time around last year when they took this two series lead in the Stanley Cup Final last year. Well, you think about it, teams that go up 1-0 in Stanley Cup Final have actually gone on to win the Stanley Cup most of the time. Obviously, if it all holds, but it, but so far, looks to be trending to be that way for the most case for for most teams, that is. But if I go back to to what to go back to the second period, I believe it was, where you know Florida were feeling good about themselves. Were feeling good themselves when they were up 3-1, like midway second period, until un, until midway. I want to say it was midway late second period where the Oilers cut it to a 3-2 lead, and
Yep.
that was where all the momentum changes and all the roller coaster going back of how the momentum swings in a series can really change like that. With really show you that the Oilers in all their previous playoff series in the last previous rounds in their history have actually come from behind from from a um, from a goal deficit. If you really go back and watch one of their highlights of how they really how it all
The
started. But
Cardiac Oilers.
that's right, as they call them. And so really, I think that for the Oilers, with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl being one of the two stars of the game of these heroes of the for game one in this overtime thriller of the excitement for what those fans at the Rogers Center have really lived for the excitement for what they finally are, that they finally lead the series, and the Mospet just going crazy. Those fans are really into it and love their Oilers, and they're really used to it. And I think that it shows you why they really have to really believe, and and why they're and why they're feeling good of themselves from the position that they're in right now. to really give you a perspective of how things really of how things really went and what really let the Oilers come from behind to win this game. Well, you think about it, they went on the power play most of the time, and that's really what led them to to um to to score and make it a close game.
That's what
And
the winning goal was on the
that's
power
right,
play
that's
in
right,
overtime,
that's
wasn't
right.
it?
And one of the players from the Florida Panthers just got his stick, and then the hockey puck just went airborne into the crowd in the seats, and that's really what draw the minor penalty, and that's what really set up the game winning power play goal for Leon Draisaitl assist with for Connor McDavid, and that really said it all right there of how and how the Hamilton Oilers find themselves in a 1-0 series lead in game one, and that's my biggest storyline in this series for the Stanley Cup final, and that's where things stand. And if you're the Paul Maurice and the Florida Panthers, you were 29-0 when leading after two periods, and and then you find yourself with the first loss of the season to to be in to be able to say that in that category with that with that single 1 point on that losing streak that the streak finally has been snapped for under Paul Maurice and the Florida Panthers just find themselves now trailing in a series 1-0 in the Stanley Cup final in the Stanley Cup final for the first time this postseason or forever or for the first time under Paul Maurice, and that's really just shows you of how things can change in the Stanley Cup final, and something tells me that that Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl teams that go up to win game one Stanley Cup final most of the time, 79% of the time, 9% of the time, and that really and that's really a great thing for teams that are up, but we'll see how the series plays out. It's still far from over, but for the Edmonton Oilers, they're off to a great start, and I think that the best has yet to come for what's ahead in Rogers Place, same place in the same arena for game two on Friday night, Blake. So
Absolutely.
lots to unfold and lots to unpack, and certainly there was a lot to break down for what unfolded for the game last night, Blake. So it was a great game. It was a great watch for all the for ratings on TV and how this game played out, and it was certainly a classic and certainly one to be to be remembered for on the top of the list to be remembered it right up there in the history of Stanley Cup final overtime winners, and that's in a thriller, and that's just really how it all was set last night, Blake. Certainly a great game to watch, and certainly was one to be remembered for sure in the history books.
Definitely, definitely. And obviously a big win for Edmonton, dramatic win. Series is far from over, right? You've only had one
That's right.
game.
Yep.
Mike, one thing I noticed, really physical game early on as well.
Mhm.
I thought which probably plays to Florida's strengths, but you think Florida definitely can find their way back into the series, right?
Well, I think it would not surprise me if this goes to game seven.
Yeah,
I mean, this is two heavyweights going at each other. Just, Panthers are mean, nasty, physical team. And they look what they did against the uh,
Don't say it, Mike. Don't
you
say it.
know,
Don't say
yeah.
it.
So anyway, but I have to go with the Edmonton Spoilers.
yeah,
Um, you know, one of the sports writers for the New York Times made the observation that last year in game one, when they were all coming out on the ice, the Oilers were all looking and staring at the Stanley Cup. Last night, none of them looked at the Stanley Cup. They were ready. So,
experience.
experience. And one minor storyline for the Oilers is they got back Matthias Ekholm, defenseman from Sweden.
He
He
scored a
came,
goal.
and he scored a goal. He came back in game 5 in the Western Finals, and he scored a goal last night.
That's big for them.
So that is big because the Oilers are a good high octane fast break type of team, and having a defenseman back is excellent for them. But it's going to come back down to the penalties. Panthers scored on a penalty when
Marchand.
they when they challenged the call on Bennett on interference,
Right.
and it didn't go their way. And 30 some seconds later, they scored their second goal on the power play.
Yeah.
And then the winning goal was on a power play with 31 seconds left in overtime. So, I mean, these guys both teams are going to play neck and neck, and I think it's going to come down to the power plays. But it's going to be
For,
fun to watch.
for sure. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's no surprise that we saw these teams again, given I think we kind of knew that despite the fact that neither of these teams finished atop of their conferences or divisions either. In the regular season, we kind of knew these teams' playoff experience. They did it last year. They know how to conserve energy and get to that end goal. So, like we said, two veteran savvy teams. But yeah, no, I think that's a really good point there with Edmonton being more focused, more prepared this time around than they were last year. A lot of these players have obviously been so close to tasting the Stanley Cup last year in that game seven. And so this year they're gonna not that if they needed any more motivation, but those Edmonton players certainly will have it. Blake, I'll go over to you. Obviously tough loss for Florida last night. But I mean, personally, as a Canes fan, we're pretty scared of this Florida Panthers team. So certainly don't want to underestimate them if you're Edmonton, right, Blake?
Well, I'm going to tell you the last thing that I heard when we left the stadium that sad night is the Canes fans cheering in unison. Let's go Oilers.
Yep,
Let's go Oilers. So that's the sentiment in the from the Canes fans right now.
definitely. Yeah, I think a lot of Eastern Conference teams, Hurricanes being one of them, are definitely. I was gonna wear my blue and orange today. I forgot I left my Oilers jersey in my closet, but yeah, I mean, personally biased as we're North Carolina based, we're definitely would like to see the Panthers lose. I
Let
think
me ask you guys. Let me
yeah,
ask you guys this. I haven't been following. I've been. We're currently in the happiest place on earth down here in Orlando, Florida. So I've been out of touch for a little while. Is there, and this could already be happening, but is this going to turn into a little rematch of USA versus Canada that we had in the Cup? Is it going to
a
trend in that
little bit.
direction?
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. That's a good point you make there because realistically, you could say the face of both teams is the face of USA Canada that we saw in the Four Nations face off, right? With right Jackson with we had Kachuk kind of leading the spear for USA and then McDavid getting the winning goal against USA for Canada as well. So
That's right.
extra motivation there, right?
Yes, and their last meeting actually came in the Four Nations tournament where Canada pretty much won every single matchup in that series to date back. So, which I'm saying correctly, which they actually did. That so you go back to that time and that was where this all first got started with this Team USA and Canada rivalry when it all first got started. So yeah, I do think it does take effect between this rivalry and yeah, that's really how this all came to be wishing for.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think we saw a lot of physical. We saw the lots of checking going on early in the game, lots of physical play, like I mentioned earlier. So definitely no absence of some big time chirping going on after the whistle as well, as we would expect in these big hockey series. So expect a lot more of that. going forward. And game two would be tomorrow night, right, Jack?
That's right. Game two will be tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, same time.
Is it a must win for the Panthers?
Um,
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
well, basically they would tie the series up if they were to win tomorrow night. But if they were down, like, let's say 2-0, then yeah, you would be finding yourself down a 2-0 hole in, in a must series win for them. So you don't want to be down 2-0 in any playoff series scenario. So you tie things up, you feel good about yourself for your hockey club and your team and in your locker room. But if not,
Yeah.
then you find yourself then your team find yourself in unfamiliar territory, meaning that you would have to go to Sunrise down 2-0, which is something that you don't want Paul Maurice, Matthew Chuck, and Sam Bennett, those guys really want to feel pressure on, and that's something you got to do, and just move on to the next game and just try to correct your mistakes and hope that you go back and hope that Paul Maurice goes back to the drawing board and hope that they can correct their mistakes and hope that they can learn from this and then then hopefully if they do all that then who knows, maybe they can find themselves back in the series with a once with the series tied 1 game apiece, but long ways off. But it's really tough to play the Oilers, especially at their place in their arena. Especially when the series with the first 2 games being on the road at Rogers Place in Edmonton, which is really a tough start for if you're a Florida Panthers fan, but if you steal one for one of those games and tie the series up and go back to Sunrise, then you would actually feel good about yourself, about your hockey club. But you got to but the first thing first is that you got to take care of business tomorrow night. But if it go but it, and if it all goes planned, then who knows? Maybe you'll find themselves feeling good about your self. You're uncomfortable for what this hockey club for what they can run from their game one collapse last night. But if they don't, then you find yourself down trailing in a 2-0 deficit. But you got to take care of business and tie series first, and you do all that. Then you feel good about your then you got to feel good
Hockey
about
club.
yourself for what for for your hockey team that can really
Yeah.
to play and live for.
Definitely got to look after your hockey club for sure. I can't. I forgot this as well. Looking up the series, the Cup final series last year, that Edmonton actually. I totally forgot this. Edmonton came back from being down 3-0 against Florida. I don't know if you guys recalled that as well, but the game seven that we had was actually forced after Edmonton being down 3-0 to Florida, which I totally blanked out of my mind. So, which is crazy. I think that's one of the few times that it's even happened that a team has overcame a 3-0 deficit to force a game seven. So certainly you don't want to rule anything out in this series, given that fact last year, right? So even if Edmonton is able to capitalize and win again tomorrow night at home, I mean you can't rule anything out with these two teams, particularly with Stanley Cup playoff hockey. History has shown. So certainly a interesting series, an entertaining series that we will definitely have to keep an eye on for sure. So I'm personally looking forward to watching quite a bit more of this. Okay, well, we will keep an eye on the Stanley Cup Finals and update as it progresses. We have another finals tipping off tonight. Not in Edmonton, but in another remote town of Oklahoma City, where we have the NBA Finals tipping off between the Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. Thunder are pretty heavy favorites in this one, considering they were pretty much the best team in the Western Conference, probably the NBA as a whole, in the regular season and playoffs so far. And then we have the upstart Indiana Pacers knocking off. We've updated NBA playoffs here the past couple weeks, and how they've really impressed, knocking off the Cavaliers, the Knicks, sending home Spike Lee and Timothy Chalamet going home in tears courtside at MSG because of the antics of Tyrese Halliburton. So I've been impressed by the Pacers. I think the Pacers were definitely one of those teams that people were sleeping on in the Eastern Conference. You have to say, a lot of the media attention goes to the Boston Celtics, obviously defending champions. The Knicks had they obviously reloaded with a lot of talent. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, so credit to them. But
And then
uh,
fired their coach.
exactly, yeah, Thibodeau,
Yeah,
Tibbs is gone, right?
What's up with that, guys?
Strange one, huh?
That's pretty wild, right?
yeah. Nobody saw that one coming. I mean, think about it. Tom Thibodeau,
Tibbs.
he took his team. His team was this close and was right there in the doorstep of getting closer to the NBA Finals, and yet the Indiana Pacers just had other ideas, and they just somehow took it from their playbook, and just those sneaky, unstoppable Indiana Pacers just had other ideas. Because if you weren't with us on our show last week, Blake, that they beat the Bucks and beat the Cavs in the last previous round in the NBA playoffs, and the Pacers are very sneaky, and they can surprise people, and they upset those top seeds in the East. They even beat the top seed at number one East team Cavaliers and Giannis Antetokounmpo's Bucks. And I'm here to tell you, they're in the NBA Finals for a reason, because of all the things that I just said. Is that Tyler Tyler Halliburton made the unlucky bounce and the unlucky shot in the game one
I'd
overtime
say it was very
thriller.
lucky.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. And then really, Pascal Siakam and those guys just really showed up and showed quit on those guys.
Yeah,
And
they're underrated team, man. People are
yeah,
sleeping on them.
and
Hmm.
also their head coach Rick Carlisle has
Carlisle, yeah.
actually had some NBA finals experience before, when he took his
Dallas, right?
Mavericks to the NBA Finals in 2011, and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
went on to beat LeBron James Miami Heat that year. And so yeah, so it will be the Pacers' first time back in the NBA Finals since 2000, when they lost to Shaq and Kobe and Steve Nash and the Lakers that year, and that was the start of the um start of the Lakers dynasty that year. And yeah, the Pacers were in the finals that year, but didn't win it that year because they lost to Shaq and Kobe that year, and that year. And but this time around, they're going up against SEJ, Sean Gillis Alexander, who is by far their Kobe Bryant and Shaq. Um, their new version of, I would say, Shaq, for OKC and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And Isaiah Hardenbrunson and Jalen Williams are by far studs, and they too are going to be they're going to be tough and hard to beat. And this is going to be this and to me, when I look at this NBA Finals matchup, this is one that nobody even predicted or saw coming. That
Yeah.
you have two small market teams going at it, and what does that tell you? It doesn't draw you better TV ratings than, like, say, Lakers versus Celtics, for example. And that just tells you nobody in America is going to be watching that finals compared to, say, um, Celtics or Mavericks or Celtics Lakers, for example. Because if Knicks were in it and the Thunder were in it, then that would probably draw a little bit better of a TV ratings for different viewers who are watching on television. But since the Knicks are not in, since they're in a big market team compared to, like, Indiana, which located in Indianapolis, where OKC, where Oklahoma City is located, the two teams from the Heartland Midwest going at it, where you have those two small market brand teams going at it, which really shows you that really that I feel like that nobody in America or anyone really cares about what
That's a bit harsh,
Yeah,
but
right. Well, yeah, but go back. Yeah, my point is,
no, I know it's not
well,
a national interest.
right. But my point is, Blake,
Yeah.
go back to the World Series a couple years ago when the Arizona
Hmm.
Diamondbacks and the Texas Rangers were in it.
Right.
What is that? How did the ratings do there?
I don't know.
Not so great
Your ratings
because
guy?
yeah, of course I am because it's not Yankees Dodgers.
Right.
It's Rangers
No, you're right. You're
versus
right. You're right.
Diamondbacks. Those teams are not in a big market when you think about it. And I know
But
these things
not all
because
the big
on
market
a
teams
geographical standpoint.
are always that. But I mean, you can't just rig the system to give all the big teams the best players. Sometimes, like maybe in Major League Baseball, there's no salary cap, so the Yankees and Dodgers spend a lot of money. But in the
Well, there is in
NBA,
the NBA, so look it up.
yeah, yeah. So I know. So it's not necessarily that the biggest teams, granted Boston, Dallas last year was in the NBA finals. That's two pretty big cities. So I think
Right.
it kind of rotates year to year, Sometimes you get an NBA finals with two big teams, two classic teams. Sometimes you get a Indiana versus Oklahoma City where I mean you have to say they're worthy of their place. They've been great two great basketball teams in the playoffs. But you're right. From a national ratings perspective, just population wise, the amount of Thunder fans and Pacers fans that exist in the US or even internationally is not a huge amount comparatively. So definitely a different NBA finals from that perspective for sure. But it could cap off an exciting season, Mike, for SGA if he wins the
Hmm.
finals, given the fact that he won the NBA MVP as well. So he'll be
Hmm.
really able to join an exclusive club there.
Yeah. Back in April, Halliburton was voted the most overrated player.
Really?
Yeah.
That
And look
surprises
what
me.
and look what he's done.
He heard the critics.
Yeah. I mean, he's playing like he's got something to prove.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely, yeah.
and the rest of the Pacers are all in with him. You
They're
know,
they're, they're motivated, aren't they?
they are motivated. I would not count the Pacers out. Uh,
I think
I
people were counting them out in the previous series, right?
well, yeah, and they won two of the three previous series where they did not have home court advantage.
Hmm.
So coming being the spoilers is not that's not new to them. That's kind of their mantra right now. You know, so I would not count them out. I think that Pacers avoid turnovers and hit the corner threes. The Thunder are going to have a game on their hands.
For sure. I
Uh,
think, like you said, the Pacers are going to have the exact same mentality they went into the previous two rounds in the conference semifinals when they pretty much manhandled the number one seed Cleveland Cavaliers, and similarly to the Knicks, where all of New York City was
yeah,
crowning the Knicks as the next best thing. But the
yeah,
Pacers went in there knowing if they did what they had to do, they were the better team and they were able to execute and get the job done. So,
yeah,
from a mindset perspective, it's going to be the same in this series.
yeah. I mean, the Thunder can certainly put the height out on the court, but can that
Right.
height can that height run with the Pacers?
Yeah.
Mm,
And
mm.
yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I'm going with the Pacers.
Whoa.
Whoa,
How about that, Jack?
whoa, Uncle Mike with the Swift with this surprise underdog pick selection. Well, that was a great pick there, Mike, with your pick right there. That's great on you, but I'm going to have to go on the other
Not so
side and disagree
fast.
with you. Yeah, not so fast, Mike. That I'm going to be picking the Oklahoma City Thunder OKC to win it all this year. They were in the finals back in 2012 when they had Kevin Durant, as we all know, being a being a being a local DMV DC guy himself from Maryland, which Uncle Mike knows very well. Well, this time around, SGA and the whole Oklahoma City Thunder he will win the most valuable player, either him or Jalen Williams, Isaiah, Halliburton, those guys. I think either Jalen Williams or SA or SGA will win the most valuable player award.
Yeah.
I think SGA will win most valuable player award for NBA Finals most valuable player, and the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to be crowned and winning an NBA title for the first time in franchise history. And SGA will win most valuable player. Book it.
Okay, there you have it. He's got one for the Pacers, one for OKC. Gosh, I don't really know. I don't really have like a strong preference personally in this series on like who I want to win or who I think will win. Like I think there's probably strong cases in both regards. But I think I just have to lean towards OKC with Jackson. Not because I like am rooting that hard for OKC. I don't really like care too much about either team from a fan perspective, but I think OKC probably just has the defenders to neutralize Halliburton as much as they can, which is why probably they're favored. Just like they're favored by, I think they're favored by 9.5 for tonight's game, just as an example. Um, they got a good home court advantage as well, to be fair. Like, there's nothing else to do in Oklahoma City except for go to a Thunder game, right? So they're going to be a raucous arena there tonight. Um, so that definitely plays in their favor as well. So I think that would lean me towards OKC ultimately. Blake, where do you lean in this one?
I'm gonna take Indiana. You
You're
know,
going Pacers, huh?
I'm gonna take
Ah,
the Pacers for Reggie. This is for Reggie
Okay, okay. So
and the
is
and the guy.
he
I
gonna do
love when the
the
new
choking
players.
symbol as well?
That's
When
right. I love when the new players do the recognize the older players in the choking. So Reggie, big fan of
that was
Reggie.
great, yeah.
Reggie Aloysius, as Dan Patrick
Wow.
calls him. And so yeah, go Pacers.
Tell you, Indianapolis is turning into a basketball town. Look at you got the Indiana Fever in the
That's right.
WNBA,
Caitlin Clark, yeah.
and you
And
got
Mike,
the
you may not know this, but they used to have a team called the Hoosiers with
uh-huh.
a guy you may have heard of called Bobby Knight back in the
Yeah.
day.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. They do love their
Yeah.
basketball up there in Indiana, don't they?
Yeah.
they sure do, and they sure do. And to your point, Blake,
They've never
you're
won a finals, have they before, Jack?
no,
Pacers.
they haven't. But they did make an appearance, as I said, back in 2000 when they lost to Shaq and Kobe that year, and
Yeah.
that was their last appearance. But who knows? Maybe this time around they can turn around and rewrite the script. But yeah, Blake. So
Yes.
you're actually forgetting, Blake, that there is also some other stuff to do in Oklahoma City, in Oklahoma City, such as the
College
Women's College
softball.
World Series softball
Softball.
game. Yes, and
How could I forget?
well, because I know these things, and it's just literally across the street
Right.
um from where the Oklahoma City Thunder Arena is,
Turning
and
into it's a sports town, huh?
pretty much. Well, it's looking like it to be from my perspective. And from game one last night, Texas Tech had the lead, except their pitcher was unbeaten. Their Texas Tech, their pitcher has been unbeaten most of the time, leading up to the College World Series final. Except
If I'm not mistaken,
Texas,
Jackson, I
Texas, yeah,
think Texas Tech
yeah,
also knocked off Oklahoma, who were like they won like the last like what 3 or 4 titles
yeah.
in Oklahoma as well. That's pretty impressive,
They
right?
did. But I'm talking about last night, Blake.
Okay,
That
okay.
Texas, where Texas scored 3 unanswered runs, and they came back from behind to win game one. That's where they find themselves um, one game away from winning the College World Series title. And think about it, Texas. They were down for Texas. They were down 1-0. I think it was bottom to 6. And well, Texas just loved the bases free um, with free on, and it was 2 outs, and Texas just rallied and they come from behind and got some and scored some runs, and came from behind, and that's how they won the game last night. And now the Longhorns of Texas are a game away from winning the College World Series title, if you can believe it, Blake.
That's impressive. Lots going on in Oklahoma City right now. I stand corrected there for sure. Definitely have to keep an eye on that series. But yeah, we got game one tonight of the NBA Finals. Game two happening on the 8th, which is Sunday night as well. So I guess we at least got some staggered NHL NBA Finals for all you sports fans out there that want something to watch here on different nights. Plenty of options to go for. So any more NBA Finals thoughts before we move on to a few other topics? I'd say we've just about covered it. We'll update that series as we progress. And we'll see. Maybe it will be a quick series or a long series. Who knows? Who knows? Could be the beauty of the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals is strange things happen. You never really know. But I do
All
want
right.
to yeah,
All
go
right.
ahead, Jack.
So you do want to talk to Blake Baumberger for a second because he's down on the ground on vacation down in Disney World down in Orlando, and
The
I
old
wanted to
Sunshine State.
yes, and I wanted
The
to ask
happiest place
you.
on earth, Jack.
I know.
The old Mouse House.
Well, you know
The
what?
mouse.
I am sure Uncle Mike Roby's grandkids have actually been there before. Have actually been there before, and the only time I went down there when I was a kid was the whole family went down to my mom's grandmother's house. She had like two houses down there in Titusville, Florida area on the Space Coast a long time
Humble
ago,
brag.
and so what I remember, Blake, is when I was a kid that me and my dad would go on the Space Mountain ride, and I'm pretty sure Uncle Mike's grandkids have been there before, which I'm pretty sure he has, but that's really
Well,
well, and you know what, I was very impressed. It went very fast, and I really enjoyed it, and it was just a Buzz Lightyear character that was really just came out of nowhere, and it was just like
To infinity.
thought it was real, and I thought it was real,
It might have been real. Who knows?
he was, but I was on this ride,
Oh, look at that, Jack. Mike's got a
wow,
Buzz Lightyear right there.
how about that?
Jackson,
I'm
what is
Buzz
Buzz Lightyear?
Lightyear.
What does he say, Jackson? Come on.
Do infinity and beyond.
There you go.
And so, really, that's what I remember about
What? No,
going
Woody?
to Space Mountain. But
well,
from my
Jackson.
experience, Blake, it was just something to remember, worth of a lifetime from the ride that we were on together with me and my dad. It was I was very little. It was a long time ago though, but from my perspective, it was a memory worth of a lifetime.
Well, Jackson, to tie this, first of all, thank you for the memories. It is awesome. I'm with my niece, and we're having a great time. And to tie this all together, there's a Netflix special. I believe it's called This Magic Moment, and it talks about, I believe, Penny Hardaway when the Orlando Magic had their run with Shaquille O'Neal down here. It's called
Right.
This Magic
Yeah,
Moment. So
me and my
check it
dad
out.
had actually watched that documentary before, and we were very impressed by it of how the NBA would never even get a team down in Orlando, especially being for how big or small that market size is. And yeah, I mean, yeah, we were very surprised and impressed of how they even got an NBA team down there. But look at what Florida did now. They got all these pro sports teams down there in college too, which is crazy of how popular a tourist vacation state it has become. My next point to you about that, Blake, is what I want to talk about is the future of the Ray Stadium, which there were some talks
Mm,
about moving it to.
baseball.
Well, that's right.
Mike's baseball.
I know that's right. And they were talking about moving it to. They were potential talks about moving it to the Walt Disney World Magic Kingdoms property, but the
Wait,
problem
are you
but the
serious?
problem
Is that right, Mike?
well,
That's
no, but I'm talking about it.
Baseball at Magic Kingdom?
First of all, of calling it the Orlando Rays, but the problem with that
You're
is that
I'm
kidding.
putting
it's
I'm
going to.
batting goofy at cleanup, in my
Well, I
opinion.
know, but my point is that if they choose to move the site there, then the problem I have with that is that it's going to create more traffic problems and create more back and forth because of how like touristy and vacation destination it is for families, and that's going to be like a nightmare for families out there in that area, and that's why I just oppose it and not really become a fan of it from a perspective on what the area has been become of how already busy it's become. So they thought about moving it over into the Tampa's Hyde Park area, but that but that side has been off the table in question. So has been off the table. So that's not going to happen. So they thought about building a new stadium in St. Petersburg, where the site of Tropicana Field is, like probably a few blocks away. But from what I'm hearing,
Jackson.
Blake, what I'm hearing is that the Orlando Rays is not going to be happening because it's going to create more traffic problems and more issues. It's not going to it's already a nightmare out there in Orlando, and you don't want to make too much traffic headache and out there and out towards the Walt Disney World campus on the property. It's not going to happen, and it's just not going to work out that well, Blake.
I wish we had a baseball expert on the show that could help us navigate this crazy rumor.
Mike, I mean,
Yeah,
what are we doing here?
yeah.
What's the plan?
I haven't heard, but I don't see it. I would see the Rays moving to a different city before they move anywhere else within Florida.
So
Just
it's a fun fact. And Ray's spring training, Mike, was in Disney World in 2023, and it was
yeah.
due to the damage at their
Yeah.
facility. It must have been a hurricane then as well.
Well,
They played at the Worldwide Sports
the
Complex.
Braves used to have their spring training there as well.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
that's interesting.
20 years ago.
yeah, I forget the name of it, but it was like they had, I think, didn't we go to a game there, Jack? If
It's
I'm
the
not
Wild
mistaken?
Wild World of Sports.
Yeah, yeah,
They
I
yeah.
had
think
We
sports
we
yeah, we
did.
did.
complex.
Yeah.
We did go to a game there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We've been there, yeah.
I uh I ran the Walt Disney World Marathon back in 2002, and
Oh, wow.
that was one of the venues that you ran by was the Wild Wild World of Sports.
That's cool.
But
So there's a group called the Orlando Dreamers, and they're a
yeah,
group trying to bring the MLB to Orlando. So they've already
yeah,
secured funding. And Jackson, you're kind of right. They're proposing a dome stadium near SeaWorld along
yeah.
International Drive.
Well, it would have to be a dome stadium in Florida.
It rains so much.
Well, and
It does.
just the heat, the heat and humidity in the summertime. I mean, yeah. But I haven't heard. I know that the athletics are really struggling with the AAA team stadium in Sacramento.
In what
That's
way?
it's not going well. Well,
In,
they don't have the capacity, and then the locker rooms are in the outfield. They're not attached to the bullpen.
sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, they're like,
Mike,
holy,
I know you're pretty well connected. Can you give them a call and talk about the Charlotte Knights? We have a great new facility, AAA facility in Charlotte,
yeah,
North Carolina.
okay.
Yeah,
I'll
I
look at
have
that.
they have the ACC. I think they're rotating the ACC baseball tournament between the Charlotte Knights Stadium and the Durham Bull Stadium.
Yeah,
I went to the ACC tournament for a little bit at the Durham Bull Stadium here
yeah,
in North Carolina. So there's a good stadium
yeah.
opportunities there for sure.
Yeah, I was speaking of Charlotte. I know the FIFA World Cup is coming to Charlotte's going is one of the venues for this year's World Cup.
Yeah, yeah. You mean the World Cup next year or the Club World Cup happening this
The
summer?
Club World Cup happening this summer.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
They have three games in Audi Field in District of Columbia,
Oh,
but
nice.
Charlotte is also one of the venues.
Yeah, yeah. It's an interesting tournament for sure happening this summer in the U.S. where it's a lot of the clubs from all around the world some of the top clubs, maybe depending on
Yeah, the
your
32,
definition. But
32 international clubs coming and competing.
yeah, yeah. So there's playing games in Atlanta. They're playing games in Charlotte, and they're playing in playing in Audi Field as
Audi
well.
Field.
You can go see Juventus versus Al Ain on
Yeah.
June 18th, Mike. So
Yeah,
put it on your calendar.
A Dubois and Italian team.
Yeah, yeah. Some
That's right.
interesting fixtures for sure. Yeah, this it's a bit of a warm up tournament, if you will, for
Hmm.
the FIFA World Cup happening in 2026.
Yeah.
So a good chance for some of these stadiums, some of these teams to kind of get accustomed to playing a summer tournament
Yeah.
in that American heat, right? So
Yeah.
should be an interesting one.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. The only news I've heard about baseball lately is the commissioner of baseball is going to recommend to the uh, competition committee to instate the automatic balls and strikes in the regular season next year.
I heard
So,
that's been progressing, right?
yeah, so stay tuned for that.
I think it's long overdue. Obviously, we had a similar situation with the pitch clock coming in
Hmm.
where it was something that people had talked about pace of play for so long. People were like, "Oh, I don't know what's going to happen." And it ended up being a great change. So probably
Hmm.
something similar could happen here, right?
Yeah, it could very well. I think the pitch clock and the big pizza box bases has done well, and you can only throw over the pickoff move 3 times, and then you either get the guy out or it's a considered a balk, and the guy gets is awarded second base. I think that has helped the game.
Yeah, no, I think innovations like this, maybe now that they've seen some of these changes they've made haven't been the end of the world, right? So maybe they're
Yeah,
a little bit less hesitant to push through some of these changes going forward.
yeah.
I thought you said when the commissioner was gonna make a statement. I thought he was gonna officially cease operations of the Colorado Rockies, given how bad their record is. You're talking about some of the bad
Oh
stories
no.
about two teams playing in minor league stadiums. I think they should just make the Rockies play in a minor league stadium because they're right
Well,
now
they are
they're
playing in a minor league stadium when they're
right.
playing at home.
Exactly,
It
exactly. Yeah.
it feels like it, given the capacity and the and the and the people and attendance with that you're seeing lately at Marlins Park. So that really does say a lot there, Mike.
Yeah, well, Marlins have never drawn any fans. I've never seen any crowd at Marlins Park ever. And the Rays don't seem to be drawn even when they had their stadium was well, of course, you all been to Tropicana Field. I haven't been
Unfortunately.
there, but
Well,
not the best of venues, even when it was in good condition.
I can tell you this, Mike. Me and the whole family went there one time when we used to live down in the Tampa Bay
Hmm.
area for my dad's job and company, and yeah, they have a stingray tank there, but overall, I wasn't really it wasn't you I wasn't really that impressed and really excited about it. It was just a worn down, pretty worn out, just just beat up ballpark, and it's just one of those ballparks that just doesn't really just doesn't really feel the same than it was in
Yeah,
for many years past. So yeah, you're not missing much, Mike. But my impressions by it, when I visited that ballpark once, having been there, it's just it's not really that exciting and very impressed by it. It's just one of those ballparks that just doesn't really have that same kind of feel to me.
yeah,
And we'll have to update as well next month when the All-Star game happens in Atlanta,
yeah,
Georgia in July, which is very exciting. So definitely some interesting baseball storylines progressing here as we progress through the summer.
Hey, and a quick shout out, Blake. I talked to
Sure.
Alex Gross from the Everyday on the phone
Yep.
about the All Star game coming to Atlanta. Well, he's going to be there at the site with one of his friends that he works with, one of the regional sport network channels on the FanDuel network for Bally Sports South Southeast that he is suggesting us to do a show on Tuesday or Monday. So keep be on the lookout for that because just shouting out to Alex Gross for that and talking about that and something to think about and keep in mind and consider for us here on Good Guy Sports.
Absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. We've got a few minutes left here, so I did want to touch upon a tennis major that's currently happening. Um, and that is Roland Garros, aka the French Open, currently taking place. I wanted to provide an update as we stand because we have the finals taking place this
Hmm.
weekend. So wanted to give everybody an update. On the women's side, we had the semifinals happen today, I believe, where we saw top seed Sabalenka take care of the Polish Swiatek in 3 sets. So she will be advancing to the final. Maybe not a huge surprise there. She's playing great tennis right now. Sabalenka is, and the American Coco Gauff
Goff.
uh, advanced against the sort of an upstart French hometown story there, Boisson, I believe.
Hmm.
Made pretty quick work of her. Obviously, she did well to get to the semis, unranked player. So Sabalenka versus Gauff, Mike, in the finals,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. Coco won both the first 2 sets to seal the deal.
Right. So you think she's got a chance against Sabalenka?
If anybody's got a chance, she does. Uh, it's going to be a good match. But on the men's side, did you see the 41 shot rally?
I did. Who was that? What match was that in?
Uh, oh, it's at Josevic
Oh,
defeating
the Zverev, right? Yeah,
yeah, Zverev.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they had a 41 shot rally at one point.
That was a yeah. That was a great game of tennis, wasn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
Djokovic experience versus sort of like Zverev is a higher ranked player, younger
Hmm.
as well. But I think me and Jackson we have to interview with Djokovic over the weekend where he seemed pretty calm and relaxed. He seemed like he's playing really good tennis, so
Hmm.
he'll be taking on the top seed Sinner in the semifinals, Italian.
Yeah.
And then Alcaraz is taking on a different Italian, Musetti, who
Right.
beat Tiafoe. I was hoping Tiafoe would make it to the semis, the American, but alas, a men's American tennis not quite able to get over the hump right now. But I'd be surprised if we don't get a Djokovic Alcaraz final. Jackson, do
Hmm.
you agree with that? Seems like we're going towards that Djokovic Alcaraz collision course here, per usual.
I do, and it looks to be that way. It could happen again. I mean, you go back to the Olympic Games last year where Djokovic won the last meeting with Alcaraz on that clay court where they actually where they actually last met and played each other against and of course that was last year, but this year is far more different. But who knows what Carlos Alcaraz has in the sleeve for what he has going up against the Joker of Djokovic, and I think that he's got to get he's got to get past the top seed Skinner first, but besides from that, it does. I, but besides from that, I do think he'll get past that and possibly looking to be for another rematch against Alcaraz and Djokovic. Now, Alcaraz won the last meeting against the Joker from Wimbledon last July, and that was where things were all split, and it was all Alcaraz in the last few meetings dating back to the U.S. Open last year. And so, really, the way I look at it this time around, I think that Djokovic might have the slight advantage, but Alcaraz um, will not go away and still be in this thing no matter what. So I think it could go either way. It could be a long day of tennis, and depending on how many sets it goes, it could go to 3 or 5 sets, depending on how long or how many hours it lasts out there at Roland Garros. But I would expect Djokovic to probably have the slight advantage over Alcaraz um, in the finals for the men's tournament.
You agree, Mike?
Um, I really don't have a opinion one way or the other. Um, but that sounds it'd be interesting to see the two Italians play.
That would be that'd be kind of fun, huh? I don't know much about
Yeah.
Musetti. I know Yannick Sinner has been around on the tour. He's kind of had as well some brush ups with some competition committee issues and stuff in the past, hasn't he? But
Yeah. I mean,
um
he's the number one seed and Alcaraz is number two.
right.
But um, you know,
I think I think Alcaraz will do it. I think he's playing really loose tennis right now. He looks
hmm
like he's really on top of his game. So I am backing Alcaraz, I think, to win the French, carry on the Nadal legacy of Spaniards dominating Roland-Garros. So
hmm
he would be my prediction there.
Yeah. That's that's a good he'll probably win.
Let's see. Let's see. Men's final will be on Sunday morning, I think. So keep an eye out for that. Busy weekend for sports
Yeah.
finals, don't we?
Yeah.
All
Oh yeah,
around.
oh yeah.
Then you can watch Canadian Open in the afternoon.
There you go. RBC Canadian Open. Who could forget?
Yep, that will be the PGA Tour golf signature event, as Jim Nantz would always say. So
The fifth major, they call it. Not
that's
right.
right. That's right. That's right.
The
That's
fifth
right.
Canadian major, they
So
call it. The Canadian major,
so
yeah, the Canadian.
yeah. So if the Nationals, well, let's say if the Nationals are not at home or on the road, then maybe it could be one of those weekends that Uncle Mike can just chill, relax on the couch and just watch tennis in the morning and then just recharge and then regroup and stretch out and just come back on the couch and just sit
Yeah.
back and just chill out and relax. Kind of like what I do is just lay on the couch and just take a nap and just unwind and relax and watch some golf is what I usually
Well,
do.
Jack, I'm not even gonna be upset for you not talking about one of the biggest sporting events going on in the world right now.
What's that,
and
Blake?
and it's and it's about a 10-minute drive from you. The soccer tournament. You've got some of the most
That's
famous
right. Yeah.
soccer players in the world 10 minutes from your house right now, and it's electric. But we'll talk
How
about that
could I?
next week with the
How could I
results,
forget?
maybe.
Yeah, how could I forget,
PSG.
Blake? I didn't know much about that.
Blake, I hope you've been going, man. It sounds like an awesome, awesome event.
It kind of stuck up on me as well. I haven't gotten tickets yet, but maybe we'll take a look at the tickets this weekend and see what's going on in TST. There's lots, like you said, lots of famous soccer folk all around. So definitely keep an eye on it. I think we got about a minute or two left. Just wanted to end with a bit of an update. Gentlemen, our long national nightmare is over because Aaron Rodgers has announced that he has planned to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers finally. Took him long enough, didn't it? We were pretty much
Mm-hmm.
talking about this story for what seems like about half a year at this point, but
Yeah.
we will be going into next season with Aaron Rodgers behind center in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, so we can all put that story to rest and
Well,
forget
that
about it
just that just means that the Ravens will win the AFC North.
by even a wider margin. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is he's getting up there in age, so I mean, we'll see, but he at least has his team next year, so
Yeah.
All what I can say is this for the AFC North. Joe Burrow is younger. He is very athletic. He has
hmm
some targets and playmakers. The Browns have a great defense. The Ravens, like you said, Uncle Mike, still have Joe Flacco, Lamar Jackson, and they can and they Derrick Henry, and those guys are very athletic and can um really throw and run the ball at the same time under John Harbaugh and the Steelers, like you said, Blake, a lot of question marks about signing this quarterback and with their QB on their roster and their depth chart with how many quarterbacks they have on their roster and their lineup is just really in question for what Mike Tomlin has on his sleeve on his door for his football team. But But you're right, Blake. Lots to get into for another time on a show, Blake. But those are my predictions for what I think the AFC North is going to play out this season.
There you go. There you go. We'll have plenty of time to chat about the NFL season as we get towards it, but we are officially out of time here on Good Guy Sports. So I just want to say thank you to Mike B.L. Lineberger and Jackson Gerke for joining me. And thank you all at home for watching and listening to another good week of Good Guy Sports. Enjoy all the great sporting events we have this weekend, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.